What is going on, guys? My name is Max or Lightsfire. I'm a Warzone coach and competitor with nearly $40,000 of earnings all on Call of Duty. And one of the things that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be diving in to a Warzone gameplay. I'm going to be coaching you guys through how to make better decisions. And I'm actually going to be talking about the bad decisions that I make as well. So it's going to be the good decisions and the bad decisions I make. Collectively, it's going to help you get a good idea of how you can bring it into your gameplay. So straight off the bat, all I'm going to be focusing on is getting 1 to 2 guns that I feel super comfortable with, and then I'm actually going to start to run at people a little bit more. So that's typically how I've played for a long time. Is I'll get guns that I'm really comfortable with, and then I'll start to get pretty aggressive. So right now I end up chasing this kid down, and I actually end up getting a little bit lost trying to find him. Now, I've noticed that in situations where people end up getting lost, when they're just looking for this player and they can't end up finding him, that they end up just doing that until they just are at a completely different side of the map. Watch how I just decide to just go and just continue looting. And what that ends up doing is it brings me to another kill. So that's going to be my first tip, is making sure that you guys aren't just chasing after players that you see. There's significantly more people around you that you're able to go and get than just that one kill that you were going to isolate. Okay, so I'm going to back up for 2 seconds here. So what ends up happening is I hear a kid that is ziplining above me to the top of my roof, and then I know that there was this kid that was across from me. So both of these confluences are kind of making me realize that I'm going to have to be playing this a little bit slow. So right on over here, I end up kind of just taking the time, I reload, and then I isolate the first kid. After I do that, I end up seeing that there is this second kid, and pay attention to this decision making. This was very, very risky. What I end up doing is I end up hitting a PRD, and I end up getting to the top of the roof. Now, the only reason that I was even able to pull that off in the first place was because there was a smoke down, and I ended up getting past that guy, and I ended up thinking that I had a bullet in my sniper, so things didn't go my way, but I did end up being able to get out of that, and it was a heads up play by looking at my field upgrade. So we end up getting that kid killed. Then we rotate on into this building. I unfortunately grabbed the wrong gun, and I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit as I go and I get this kill. So I hear this kid pushing towards me, and I make the decision to slide on out with it. So I want to kind of break this down a little bit. I accidentally grabbed the wrong gun. We end up running on into the corner, and then the moment that I realize that he's probably close enough where he's going to be having to round the corner. And so what I mean by this is, see, he's right here. He's then going to be having to turn and look this way. That's when I'm going to be making the decision to slide out. So this was a very intentional play, because he's not going to be expecting this person to be kind of flying out of this area. He's going to be expecting them to be right in the corner. So we end up getting that kill, and now I'm going to be kind of focusing on just kind of getting a little bit more plates so that I'm able to feel a little bit more comfortable. So we end up shooting that kid. I end up missing the bullet, and right now I'm paying attention to my mini map and where there are people, even as I was doing something else. So I was looting, but I was also paying attention to my mini map, because now I know that there are more people in here. So now going back to the decision making, I know that there's a guy here. He ends up hitting to the zip to the top of the building, and pay attention how I don't even go for the kill. Now, most people in that situation, they would have just isolated that one guy that was on top of the roof. But as you can see, my decision to not go for this kid that was on top of this roof and instead run over here brought me into 2 different people. So sometimes, again, you guys are chasing out kills that are actually making it so you're not getting as many kills. There's so many people in this game right now. There's 25, and I'm in a hot spot. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on a little bit more. And I'm just going to turn that volume down a little bit so it's a little bit easier for me to hear. So, all right. So now that we ended up getting one of those kills, I pushed out that area. I ended up getting another kill. I hear somebody that is flying on in, but that wasn't close enough. Then somebody ends up flying in that is close enough. We end up gunning that kid down. Pay attention to how I heard another person was there, and I immediately make the decision to slide down the stairs. I don't fully know where this kid is, and honestly, I didn't see the kid that was on top of this roof right here. So what was going through my mind is, I'm going to make a decision to kind of protect myself by moving based off of hearing that parachute mantle. So Now, what I'm going to be doing is after I get that kill, we have 9 kills right now. I'm going to be rotating out of the spot because it was pretty hot. I got a lot of kills there. And now I'm going to be looking for a different set of people to get an engagement with. So I see this first kill. I get my center dot right on over to him before I aim and shoot. Pretty easy kill for me right there. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting some plates down. I hear another kid flying on in. And pay attention to how many times I'm reacting to somebody based off of a parachute in. So right here, we end up getting another kill. So we have 11 kills right now. I'm going to be trying to rotate back on towards this area, and I want to go and grab a buy station. But what I don't really want to do is go to an area that I'm not super comfortable with. So something that I want to kind of talk about is the topic of routine gunfights. So for example, I love to play around this area. This is just one of the areas that I typically play around, and then I'll rotate through here. Now, if I do that continually, I get in those engagements a lot, which means I'm very comfortable with those engagements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around the areas that I'm a little bit more comfortable in, and I'll notice that I'll end up winning more engagements. Now, sometimes you have to always go into an area you're uncomfortable with, and that's completely fine. But I chose to make the decision to go around this area because I play around it a lot. Now, we're going to dive on in, grab our loadout, and pay attention. I only have $4,800 in this situation. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be actually trying to get enough money for a UAV so that I can get a general idea of where people are. Now, I'm looking at the mini map. I do see that there are people that are inside the building, but I want to know where the majority are. You always are wanting to go where the majority are. Now, I see that there's a kid above me and that there's a kid below. Now, this is where I actually end up making a pretty big mistake in this gunfight. So I end up shooting this kid in the back, and it actually readies him for the engagement. Now, pay attention to this. And I think a lot of you guys probably make the same decision. You kind of panic, you round the corner, and you hit him with a bullet. Now, what does this do? This allows him to be able to prepare to then challenge the gunfight versus you. Now, if he kind of got caught off guard by my footsteps, I may have won this engagement because I would have been able to challenge him, and then he would have had to play the audio of my footsteps. But instead, I told him where I was. Then he turned around. I had to go through a doorway, which is a pretty easy kill for him. And then he ends up winning the engagement. Now, I did lose that gunfight, and it was pretty mind-blowing to me. I did not feel like I was supposed to lose that. But nonetheless, I made a mistake in that situation, and it cost me my life. So try to make sure that you guys are making that same mistake where you're just accidentally shooting, you're trigger happy. Be very intentional with, if you got a clean line of sight on them, shoot them. Now, we're going to be diving on in to grab my loadout. It was a pretty risky play. Honestly, I was at the point in the recording where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to risk it for the biscuit. It's not always the best decision to just kind of full send like that. And you kind of want to just like kind of peek above to see if there are people first. Now, I was pretty lucky that the guy didn't end up being able to wall bang me right there. And I ended up playing the timer to make sure that I have my life back. And now I'm focusing on getting my next kill. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is whenever you end up dying, you lose your momentum. So let's just say you get 11 kills. 11 kills right now, then you lose your momentum. Now, what ends up happening from there? Well, if you don't end up getting a kill pretty quickly or rotating out of the area typically where your loadout is, I've noticed that we end up tending to get in this spawn die simulator. So I'm trying to do one of two things. I'm going to grab my loadout and then rotate out of that area so that I can go and get a kill that's from somebody just in a random spot. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get a kill pretty quickly right after my loadout, because it ends up giving me a little bit more momentum, and I get the confidence back that I'm able to go and just get in more engagements and start getting on a flow. So as we end up making this rotation, and my thought process here is I want to get to the top of the roof just so I can choose who I want to challenge. So if you're on the highest point, you're going to be able to decide who you want to challenge in the engagement. And so right here, I'm up here at the highest point. I can decide who I want to challenge. And right here, this is a pretty safe spot for me because nobody can really do anything to me unless they land on me. And at that point, I'm pretty confident since they have a pistol. So I get up to the top. I see this kid. I end up challenging out. And then we end up winning that engagement. Now, I want you guys to kind of pay attention to this. So right here, I end up playing this stim shot. I don't just full send. I don't really scurry out, and I end up challenging this gunfight. Now, the reason that I did that was because I knew that in this situation, he would not expect me to aggressively challenge, and he's probably going to be doing the same thing that I should be doing in that situation, and that is plating up. So I played it by catching him off guard. That was really my thought process right there. So now we're trying to go for some shots, getting this kid out of the sky. I end up jumping on over. Somebody tries to shoot at me. I heard him last second. And I want you guys to understand, this is a really big mistake most casual players make, and you guys should not be making this mistake. I think most people in this situation, they're going to be sliding out into the middle of the open and challenging a gunfight where the kid is on the head glitch. Now, what I did instead was I blocked my body as he was blocking his body, and it gave me a pretty even engagement right there. So I end up getting him weak, and almost in every situation I get somebody weak, I try to get very aggressive on them. He hit some really weird shots. As you can kind of tell, he stuttered a little bit, like he was lagging, but I ended up winning that gunfight nonetheless. So there is a fire sale in the situation. This kid catches me off guard. I have the tracker perk, so I have a little bit of combat scout, which is awesome. And so as you can see, look how I'm turning as I'm going down. I didn't just jump and then turn. I'm turning as I'm going down, and ignore that arrow. Apologize. And that gives me a very, very easy kill. So as I fly on up here, there is this kid that is right over here, and I hit a really beautiful movement on him. Now, guys, I have a movement guide that I'm going to be putting on the screen right now. And what I want you to understand about this is I talked in this video about these backward slides. And it's so these slides to the side, these backward slides that nobody's used to shooting against. I mean, I've been playing Call of Duty for so long, and one of the things is that back in Advanced Warfare, very casual players were caught off guard by the competitive players because they just moved differently. So nobody's sliding sideways. It's not something people do right now. So try to get it into your movement patterns. Try to get it into this little arsenal that you have of movements that you do. Okay, so I want you guys to pay attention to where I'm looking at on the minimap right now. Now, this is also a thing that I think a lot of casual players will make the mistake of. So as you can see, there are 4 people right here, 2 people right here, 2 people right here, and 1 guy right here. And that is the information that I know. There could be more people on the map based off of the numbers. I'm not going to count everybody up right now. But one of the things I want you guys to understand is the pro players are always going to be going after the masses. So if there are 4 people in an area, they're going to be isolating each of these kids individually in this area. So one of these guys, I'm going to challenge a one-on-one engagement, then this guy, then this guy, then this guy. You're not going to try to position yourself to kill all 4. You're going to go for each of them individually. Now, most casual players, they're going to be going after this kid, or they're going to be going after this guy. Always go for the area that has the most amount of people. So we end up going, and I hit the PRD. We get to the top of the roof. And pay attention to how I have pocketed a UAV, so I am able to kind of just pop that up whenever I want. So we push out on over here. Now, I played this one a little bit slow because I just didn't like this engagement that much. So I was kind of just like trying to play it slow, see if I can get my first bullet on him. But I was kind of struggling to see if I can get into that engagement. Now, I ran on up here and kind of made this embarrassing thing where I slid right into this grate, which I feel like that's been open one time that I played, but anyway, I end up getting on down here, and I'm still looking for this kid. Now, I end up sliding towards him, and I end up getting right behind him, breaking his camera, and making it a very difficult engagement for him. Now, again, pay attention. I'm running towards the area where there are 4 people. Now, I see 2 people. This is I want to tell you my thought process right here. I see 2 people. Now, this second person right here, as I go into a building where there's 2 people, I want you guys to understand that I'm always going to be thinking that they're not going to be on the same level. And the reason is because if they were, they'd probably eliminate one another. So right here, I went bottom first so that I could find this kid or one of the other guys, but I think he was floating in that situation. So we end up getting that kid. I do see this kid that's on top of the building, and then I end up hearing something that is right behind me. Now, pay attention how I get him weak, and I don't really hesitate. I end up running on over towards him to trying to get into this engagement, and I end up winning this engagement. Now, this is something that almost, I think it pretty much saved my life, is I slide towards him, and pay attention how I get behind this crate right here. So I slid and blocked my body with something, and it allowed me to win this engagement that ended up nearly eliminating me. So we get that kill. And now I'm like, okay, I have $10,000. I probably should pop a UAV in this situation. So I guess I end up going past that, but I do end up popping a UAV here in a second. So what I end up doing is, and what I should have done was probably pop the UAV right there, get the information so that I'm not just kind of running blindly trying to figure out where everybody is. So I guess that was the mistake. I could have done it earlier. I do end up doing it right now. But that was probably something I should have done earlier. So we end up popping this UAV. And now we're kind of looking on over. I see that there are 3 people on top of this building. Now, a lot of times I really do enjoy to go for the people that are outside of the zone if I'm trying to go for high kills. Like right now, I'm trying to get a 30 bomb. It's mathematically impossible at this point, but I am trying to go and get a 30 bomb. So I'm going to be pushing the kids that are outside of the zone, and so that I can end up kind of holding them in this situation. So I do play it pretty aggressively. So I push this first kid out. He was in the engagement versus this kid. I shot him in the back. Now I end up running towards this second kid. So I'm kind of paying attention. He is running more towards the buy station. And I'm almost like, do I really want to fight this? It kind of feels like a waste of time. So this is something I probably could have pushed out a little bit more aggressively. I wouldn't say that's not a mistake per se, but it was probably a pretty free kill because he was probably just in that hallway right there. But I did end up rotating nonetheless. So now I end up hearing somebody that is right below inside this building. We get him pretty weak. I didn't know this building or wasn't as familiar with this building. So I kind of just played it pretty slow. I didn't really want to just over challenge the engagement. And so what I end up doing is I rotate back on out. We end up rotating and trying to climb to the top of the building to see if I can get in this engagement. And this was actually kind of a mistake. And the reason that this was a mistake was because I'm allowing myself to be seen by every angle right now. So as you can see right here, these people can see me, these people can see me. And if somebody was like over here on top of this building, these people can see me. And I'm allowing myself to be shot by multiple different angles. So what I should have done is probably just stayed within the building and then tried to isolate the kid as he rotated on up over here. But it wasn't a bad chow, and it ended up working out nonetheless. So we end up going and we outgun that kid. Now right here, there are 3 or 2 people left. So what I'm going to be trying to do is isolating each of them one at a time. Again, I don't want to challenge them 2 at a time right now. So I end up seeing that kid, and then I hear a kid a little bit closer. So I'm trying to figure out where exactly is he. Now I see this precision airstrike. He got hit with a precision airstrike as well. And pay attention in this situation how I end up challenging this gunfight right now. So I slide the moment that I realize that he's probably right on me, and because I'm going to be catching him off guard. He ends up hitting the jump, and that ended up killing him because when you jump, your gun goes straight up in the air. What I want you to understand is the moment that I get this kid weak, notice how I don't even hesitate. I just immediately go and I start to fly at the person. And the moment that I see him, I get him weak, and then I end up hitting a dive, and then we end up winning the game. So guys,